Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Christensen. This is Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and welcome back to Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. I am super excited about today because it's going to be the first of our box set Thursdays. And even though I'm kind of hedging my bets on that one because we're not really doing a box set so much as we are doing a collection of films from a distributor known as Visual Vengeance. And I'm going to bring in my pal Matt Desiderio. Whoop, there we go. See, I'm so tech savvy. And let me unmute you. How about that? There we go.
Now, you were probably better off keeping me muted.
No, we are here. We are here to chat about these movies because they showed up on my doorstep, I want to say earlier this year. And one of the first ones I tackled was The Abomination and Replicator, both by Brett McCormick, and just delightful. And so I don't know why I hadn't gotten around to these others, but we're going to be talking about The Wrong Door, Scream Queen, Vampires and Other Stereotypes, and Lycan Colony. Those are Visual Vengeance's 11th through 14th releases. And then I understand, we were talking backstage, I understand we've got some new ones coming out. So I'm excited to hear about those.
You seem to know everything already.
But Matt and I met, you and I met when my first book, Horror 101, came out. And
I want to say, wait a second. Now, did we meet before the book even came out? That's my question, because I was thinking about this earlier.
We met on MySpace way back in the day.
No. We met in person first.
Did we? Where did we meet?
At the store at Forbidden Planet.
No.
We had to have.
Did I just come in to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured we knew each other before that.
No.
But then, so I just came in with my books because you were carrying them. I knew you were carrying them, though.
I think this is wrong.
Talk to me, Matt.
I hate to tell you.
I've been telling this story wrong for all these years.
Well, I hate to rewrite your history, but from my memory, which is not very good, but I'm pretty sure I met you in the store. Now, did you live in New York City or you were always living in Chicago?
So I was always living in Chicago. I was in town doing an event, not a horror event, just a promotional event. And I knew that Forbidden Planet was carrying the books. And so I went to visit Forbidden Planet. And my memory is that there were already books there. And we met and you said, do you want to sign a couple? And I said, oh, wow, that would be great. I would love to. That was 2007.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. And
it sure is.
You know, I have kids working at the store that were born after that. But
maybe it's somewhere between those two.
Well, I could have swore that you came into the store, had told me about the book, and then we ordered them, and then you were back in town to sign them at some point. See, that's what I vaguely remember.
Okay.
But I could be completely wrong.
I really don't know. And I like the fact that neither of us has any idea. And yet here we are, all these years later.
Well, I make the joke about MySpace because I'm not very tech savvy. I don't really use social media.
Were you ever on MySpace?
I was on MySpace, but mostly for music stuff because I played in bands most of my life. And the reason we had just reconnected is because I only started a Facebook not like a couple of years ago. So we actually, and Facebook is already like the thing that people don't use anymore. So it was about time I got one. And then you just came up and I said, holy, I haven't seen this guy or talked to this guy. But we used to correspond. We used to email back and forth, check in on what we were doing, because I always thought it was awesome that you know, from meeting you right off the bat, you did seem like it was very new to you writing this book and just diving into it. And I will never forget, at one point you said to me something along the lines of, at some point you can't just be a fan anymore and you have to contribute to the community. And I always thought, I really did take that to heart, because at that time I was mostly just a fan of this stuff. I was always part of the music world and doing music stuff, but I never really found a spot within the movie world to do something. And now I have. And I do think about that very often, because we did have that conversation at one point.
Yep. I do remember, even though I don't remember some details around it. I remember instantly connecting with you and you just being like such a cool guy. And the fact that you were like, get over here, sign these books. And I was like, that's awesome. Thank you.
Well,
But
I also remember we ordered like a box of them, which was surprising because it's like, honestly, the way the things work now,
yeah,
we don't order a box of books.
nobody buys books anymore.
No. So, I remember having a whole case for you to sign, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. And Forbidden Planet, for those who don't know and who haven't been to New York, Forbidden Planet's an amazing store. Tell us a little bit about kind of like, you'll do a better job pitching it than I would.
Okay, Forbidden Planet is a legendary pop culture emporium that's been open since 1981. I've been shopping there since I was a kid. I was born in 1981, and my parents took me there pretty early on in my life. And now I've been working there for nearly 20 years because I love it. What it is, it's comics, it's sci-fi, it's horror, it's toys, but it's more than just your average stuff. The fact that it's an independently run business where people like me and my coworkers are able to decide what we carry, makes a huge difference because we get a lot of independent weird stuff that is not your average kind of Amazon fare. You see my cat's tail.
I did.
I'm sorry about that. These guys are unruly.
We are in the age where the cats are taking over. So,
forget about it. But yeah, I mean, Forbidden Planet, it's a staple of New York City. It's part of the counterculture. It's part of the culture of the city in general. And it's really important because in the almost 44 years or whatever that it's been open, so many things have come and gone in New York City. Yeah. Things that are like corporatized versions of what we were doing, like the Virgin Megastore or Tower Records. They popped up
gone.
They're all gone. These with millions of dollars behind them, and us, the tiny little independent one-off business, is still here. Thanks to, I guess, people like you and the weirdos of New York that are still buying books.
Yep, keep it up, everybody.
Please.
Well, and kind of in that vein, I mean, Visual Vengeance. Again, you're going to know more about them than I will, but I was so struck, and I rambled on endlessly when I was talking about the Abomination release, because there's so much care that goes into this. For physical media these days, which is also dying off, for somebody to invest in a Blu-ray these days, there has to be something more to it than just the movie. And boy, does Visual Vengeance deliver. I mean, we have commentary tracks, we have interviews that go on forever, like going with Brett McCormick and talking about where he shot the film and things like that. Like, I love that. And the same is true with all four of these releases as well, is that you really dive deep. And there's one of the things I've said about independent filmmaking, especially kind of a low budget variety, is that you have to be on the side of the filmmaker. You have to kind of be rooting for them to make this movie. And all of these supplements make that so much easier to do. You hear about the stories that they had to endure on the set, the hardships they did, how, maybe the film didn't get released, and then now people are discovering it. So anyway, tell us a little bit about like the Visual Vengeance aesthetic and just what is your role within it.
Okay. Before I talk about myself, I just want to talk about you and the Abomination. Have you ever seen the Abomination before?
I had seen it once before. My friend John Kitley hosts an event called Turkey Day, where we watch, questionable movies. And Abomination was one that he had played, and I was just knocked out. I was like, what the hell is this movie? So when the Blu-ray showed up on my doorstep, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And again, hearing all about the stuff that Brett McCormick went through, I was like, how can you not love this movie?
It's a real special one. And the Visual Vengeance Blu-ray is really the first official, disc release that went into distribution. So, I mean, that alone, I mean, with Abomination, because it really has such a great cult following, But very niche. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not. It hasn't broken through, but the people who have seen it do love it. We could have put that out just on a Blu-ray with just the movie, and people would have still bought it. But obvious, like you're saying, these movies deserve so much more, and the people that are putting down their money deserve more as well. Abomination was really kind of the thing that set the company off. Although it was later in the releases, it wasn't one of the first releases. That was always one of the things that the company was like, if we get Abomination, I mean, that's the reason to have Visual Vengeance. If we can secure the rights to that. And man, did that take a long time to do. But when we did it, when it happened, it was like such a success and such a good feeling, because that movie is awesome and it deserves everything that it got, and it deserves the fans that it's getting now because of the new Blu-ray. But man, like, I'll tell you, like, the first time I met Brett was awesome. I went out to Texas. So Visual Vengeance is a subsidiary of Wild Eye. And you might know Wild Eye Releasing. They're the company that puts out tons of the new Mark Polonia movies, a lot of the new Donald Farmer movies, a lot of the guys' movies that we released through Visual Vengeance, they're newer movies. And a lot of other low-budget independent films. I mean, Wild Eye's been around forever at this point. A lot of the bigger titles that you may have heard of, like Velocipaster or The Amazing Bulk. Some of the cult hits, if you will, that just won't die. Shark Exorcists, or 9 times out of 10, if you see a shark movie or an Amityville movie, it's a good chance it's a Wild Eye release. But so Visual Vengeance is something that Rob Housechild, who runs Wild Eye, and I had talked about for a long time, about doing something with the older movies, because Wild Eye was working with all these guys on their newer movies, and the reason is because we love all the old movies, and Rob loves all the old movies, and I love all these like shot on video and regional films of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the real, pretty much the equivalent of the newer movies, but round one, when people were just making movies in their backyard. And these Wild Eye movies are kind of like that now, but the scope and the playing field has changed so much, so it's kind of hard to even quantify that, because sometimes these new movies go out and they end up on Tubi and they might sell 100 copies physically, when back in the day, who knows, like a movie like Feeders or Addicted to Murder, which are going to be released on Visual Vengeance eventually. Those movies, although they were like backyard epics, Blockbuster bought thousands of them, and they got out there and people saw them. So I guess there was less competition. I don't know. But anyway, what is my role in this whole thing? I met Rob many years ago. We started doing live events together. I kind of love the aesthetic of Wild Eye. I was into VHS. I'm still into VHS to a certain degree. And I was putting a bunch of Wild Eye movies out on VHS with Rob, and also booking screenings of them too. That was something else I was doing. When I started wanting to do stuff within the realm of films, I said, what can I control myself and not have to be, making a job out of it? And I decided to start booking movies theatrically and putting movies out on VHS. And I did a lot of Wild Eye related movies. So that's kind of how we linked up and continued.
When was that, if you remember?
Man, this has got to be 14 years ago or 13 years ago or something like that. Maybe a good 5 years, 6 years after we met, maybe something
it's like
like
2010,
that.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere around there, kind of. I'd say probably. And then Then what happened? Then then in the last whatever couple of years, even Visual Vengeance was brewing for years before it actually happened. Like I want to say, a couple years before COVID was kind of when things really started cooking, and Blu-rays didn't start coming out until almost like a little over 2 years ago, or maybe just about 2 years ago. So you got to think, the company was cooking for maybe 4 years, 5 years before a single release came out. And we were just, we were signing up movies, we were planning things out, we were shooting special features. Like I had gone out to Texas to shoot all those special features with Brett for Abomination, right, maybe in the midst of COVID, probably. So, a couple years before that came out. But man, I know I was talking about meeting Brett for the first time out of nowhere and going to the Texas Frightmare convention, and then I just kind of trailed off. But we would go to the Texas Frightmare, and we would hang out with Glenn Coburn, who's the director of Bloodsuckers from Outer Space, and which is another awesome 80s regional film, but shot on film. A really smart, funny movie. And Glenn is the funniest guy. If I lived in Texas, we would probably be in so much trouble together all the time. But we would go and hang out with Glenn, who I already had a friendship with, just through connecting through social media, I believe, or just maybe I would email him or something. I don't even know, but I was a big fan of his movie, so I connected with him somehow. And then when we would go to Texas Frightmare, we would meet up with Glenn. And one day, Glenn, we're going to the show. We meet up with him, and he goes, "Oh, hey, this is Brett McCormick." And I'm like, "Brett McCormick, director of Replicator and Abomination?" And Brett's like immediately like, he's like, covering his head. He's like, "Oh God, Glenn, what have you gotten me into?" So I'll never forget that, and just having made such of a fanboy impression on Brett. But now, like, listen, I get along with, I love these guys like true friends, like as much as, and it's easy for me to do that because, hey, I just work for the company. But but like I talk to them pretty frequently just about all types of things, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really connecting with these filmmakers. That's what it is for me. I like working on all this stuff, but I'm such a fan of this stuff that, I want to know the people behind it. And
it's fun to come into the inner circle.
Yeah, it's just cool to be in that position to, if I love something, I try to make the creator my friend. And then when that happens, sometimes it doesn't work out, and you learn that these people suck, and
you're like, "Oh man."
And then you're stuck with them sometimes, which is even worse after you have made them your friend. But what do I do for the company? I do tons of stuff because it is a very small company and there's really nobody who works for it. But we do have lots of people that do lots of stuff for the company. But it's a job of many hats. I do acquisitions. I, create special features. I do some graphic design. I just come up with ideas for the company all the time. I do.
Well, can I admire you for just a second? So like things like, you have this box art, but then you have this box art, and then you also have the inside box. So like we have three different basic, posters for, and then you throw a little mini poster in there. You got stickers. I love that. Like there's a little door handle thing for the wrong door.
That was like a 11th hour idea I had, that I was just like, Rob was like, "Hey, these are going into production like right now." And I was like, "Wait, is there an extra in there?" And he's like, "No." I said, "Well, we got to make a door hanger.
Got to have a gimmick."
And he was like, "If you can design one like today, we'll send it to print and it'll go." And I was like, "Oh my God." Yeah. And everyone talks about the door hanger, which I thought was really awesome. And, I was really proud of that one. And The Wrong Door is such an interesting movie too. It's shot on film. That's such like a true regional kind of almost school project as kind of
Yeah.
thing, you know, where it did get distribution, which I'm sure those people had no concept of. And uh, and now it is again, like it's coming out so many years later, which is always a big surprise for a lot of these guys. Not like a surprise, it's a surprise. A lot of times it works two ways. You contact these people and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you even know what this is. Or
Right.
sometimes they're like, leave me alone. I have no interest in that. You know what I mean? But it's cool when they do get what you want to do. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like I love coming up with ideas for this type of stuff, and the art is so important, especially in the, you know, I don't know, the last, you know, we went through so many phases with art and film where it was like, you know, got so bland and just became like
The big faces on the
big
posters.
faces on a poster, no original art, which is like kind of annoying. But then we got into this like Shout Factory digital painting, everything looks the same kind of shit too. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
You can say that.
Sorry, bleep me out. Bleep me out.
No. Bring it on.
You don't want to say that to me. But you know what I mean? It's like, and then just Blu-ray started looking the same, and like people just started using the same artists over and over and over again. And you know, I kind of love the fact that, you know, we do use some of the same artists over again, but we have a ton of different artists. And as you saw, you know, there's so much different art in each one of these packages. There's the limited edition slipcase art, there's the regular cover art. You know, we try to use the original tape or original poster art for the inside sleeve.
Yep.
So to keep that like tradition up where people can see what it originally looked like when it came out. The posters, sometimes there's just a, you know, a booklet in there that has different art. Abomination had a comic book that had a different cover, like different cover art. That's why, you know, we were talking earlier and you were like wondering what kind of happened to Visual Vengeance because you had gotten those 4 releases,
right? And then I hadn't heard anything in
year
a while.
ago. It's because we put a lot of work in this
Takes
stuff.
time. Yeah.
And we're not on any kind of schedule. There's nobody telling us what to do. I hate being in a position where you are committed to
Having
something.
to just crank it out.
You know what I mean?
Putting something out before you wanted to put it out.
Or just anything in life. It's like, who wants to do what you're told? Why not just do it your own way, you know?
Right.
And then I mean, of course, we do have to battle with the fact that you sign contracts that are only for X amount of years, and that's literally the only thing that's working against us. But you know, that's negotiable too, you know. So in the end, sometimes you have to extend things to make sure that you have the greatest product.
Well, here's a question. I mean, and I'm sure people are always curious, you know, especially when it comes to these kind of boutique labels where it's like, how do you choose which films you want to highlight? You're like, I don't know. I'd never heard of any of these films before. And so until you put them on my radar. So, you know, like Wrong Door, it's probably my favorite of the 4. I was like,
Cool.
it's a cool little like micro budget De Palma film. And I was like, that's cool as hell. Like, I love that these guys were making their little movie about a sound. It's kind of like Blowout, right? You know, it's like it's a sound recording student going to school, and he's got his final project due, and then he's also a singing telegram guy, and he goes out and gets caught up in a murder. And I'm like, this is awesome, and it's done on like, you know, for nothing.
Yeah. How did we come across The Wrong Door?
Sure.
So, you know, again, me and Rob are just huge fans of this stuff. And like, you know, from meeting me, you know, whatever many years ago, I would always talk about the weird, obscure stuff. You know, I was always bringing up kind of cultier stuff that wasn't the mainstream. Like, you know, everybody knows Freddy, Jason, and, you know, Michael Myers, Chucky, all that type of stuff, which is cool. And I'm a fan of that type of stuff.
Get you in the pool. Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I'm the biggest like Universal Monsters fan. I love the old school stuff. the thing is, I love all of this stuff. And you know what? I don't just love horror movies. I love movies in general. And I just like weird movies. True. Me and my wife have talked about this a lot recently. As we've gotten older, we have come to realize it's not just about being a horror fan. I think I just like weird stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like being I do like less and less of newer horror movies that are coming out. I got to be honest. They do less and less for me. But I give me something offbeat and weird, and it could be sweet. It doesn't have to be hateful. You know what I mean? And I could be into it. But Wrong Door.
Before you jump in there on Wrong Door, I feel like that's the thing. Like you get the sense with these movies, these people really wanted to make a movie.
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't have the resources, and they still were like, I need to make this movie now with whatever I have available, with whomever I have available. And I think you feel that passion throughout, and that's what helps you root for the film.
It's a sickness. It's not just a passion. Like
Yeah.
it's odd. Like some of these people, they just can't help but do it, and that's cool. I mean,
right. Where would we be without those people?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I love movies, and I love comics, and I love music, and I love the independent stuff. I love the stuff people create and put out themselves, because nobody's telling them what to do, and they do it their own way. So usually that makes for the most interesting stuff, whether it has $1 million behind it or not. A person can still convey the truth of the art and make it interesting without money behind it. And that's like a testament of like their creativity, their passion, their drive. But I'm a big VHS fan, like I said, and there's so much. The whole thing that like got me into videotapes is because there were so many movies that weren't out on DVD. Forget even Blu-ray. We're not even in the Blu-ray era yet what I'm talking about. And then forget when the Blu-ray came out, there's even less out on Blu-ray.
Yep.
So digging through tapes was always important to me, and I've been doing it. I'm a VHS collector per se, but I've been buying tapes when that was just the standard. And I've been a fan of movies since then. So looking for the weirdest stuff, whether it be on tape or DVD or now on Tubi or however you, get your movies, I'm always looking for something I haven't heard of. And that makes me excited.
Yeah.
So, man, The Wrong Door.
Oh, gosh.
The cat, Jesus. He's a troublemaker, I told you. Now, The Wrong Door is a weird one. It was made aware to me by collecting VHS because what do I say? So The Abomination was made by Brett McCormick and Matt Devlin, directed by Brett McCormick, produced by Matt Devlin. They also made another movie at the same time called Ozone: Attack of the Redneck Mutants. Right. That was produced by Brett McCormick, but directed by Matt Devlin. Abomination came out on a company called Donna Michelle, which released a bunch of low-budget independent films. I think there's 7 altogether. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Splatter Farm, Abomination, Monsters and Maniacs, Attack of the Killer Refrigerator, Wood Chipper Massacre. These are all the ones that came out on Donna Michelle, all really awesome shot on video or regional independent films. But Ozone came out on a different, I think they kind of felt like, oh, we got burned by having a distributor put out Abomination, so they decided to start their own company to put out Ozone: Attack of the Redneck Mutants, and that was called Mother Video, kind of based off of Matt Devlin's mother, who would do these like funny intros, and you'll see that eventually when you see Ozone: Attack of the Redneck Mutants, unless you've already seen it. Don't let me assume, but The Wrong Door was released on Mother Video.
Okay.
It's the only other movie on Mother Video, so it became like a kind of obsession to find Wrong Door at one point when I did my research and found that out. But totally wildly different. You know, Ozone's a splatter movie, and Wrong Door, as you said, is like the Palma-esque like thriller. But the funny thing is, now having signed The Wrong Door and talked to the people behind that, and becoming friends with Matt Devlin and Brett and the people behind Mother Video, the stories are so funny because they don't remember anything. And Matt is like, I don't remember this movie, The Wrong Door. And the people behind The Wrong Door is like, I don't remember Mother Video. I don't make no sense to me. I don't know what that is. So sometimes like these little mysteries that you are trying to figure out and solve have no answer in the end. But it's cool to have found the only 2 Mother Videos. But I'm telling you, once if you saw The Wrong Door, there is a little thing that they filmed with Mother as a little intro for The Wrong Door. So they knew there was something back there that they knew. They just forgot, and that's what happens, man, because just like I have forgotten how we met, and you have
I still don't know how we met.
This is this is now going 40 plus years. This is not just 18 to 20 years like when we met. This is like, 40 something years. These guys don't remember this stuff, especially the guys who kind of moved on.
Sure.
Who didn't continue making movies or working in the industry. So
that has to be a lot of fun to connect with these people and bring them back, to walk them back down memory lane. A movie that they either put a lot of heart and soul into and it didn't pan out for them, or something they have kind of turned their back on. Like the guy, I remember the interviews with the guy from Rob Roy from Lycan Colony. Like he's kind of like, yeah, that was my first movie and I wasn't real happy with it. So I kind of just buried it. And then it went viral on him, and Riff Tracks did it. And
see, that's a whole nother, that's a world that I'm not so familiar with. I'll be honest. Like the 2 releases that I probably have, well, let me not say this, but Lycan Colony is definitely a release I had nothing to do with. It wasn't on my radar. It was something that Rob was familiar with, and but he does, he's more in tune with those guys, like the Riff Tracks guys and Red Letter Media. Does that ring a bell? Like guys like that who are podcasters or videocasters or movie reviewers. I don't know what you would call them. Not Riff Tracks. I know what that is, but I get the concept of what they do. But that, those movies have these huge fan bases beyond like the movies that we normally gravitate towards, and it's like completely different world. And it's awesome to now see how these movies are getting exposed to different groups of people. Like the very first movie that we released was called Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell.
Yes. Yeah, I got that as well.
Which I love, and I think that's so awesome. And it's another one that's like a movie that took 10 years to actually finish. It like came out, it never came out here in America, but people were aware of it because I think there was a German release of it, and and the director self-released it at one point.
Well, just really quick, I mean, it's a Japanese, I believe. It's a Japanese redo of Evil Dead.
Correct.
Like that's what Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell is. It is Evil Dead shot in Japan by a guy who really liked Evil Dead.
Exactly. And bodybuilding. Don't forget, he also liked bodybuilding. So he took his 2 passions and put them together. But the story is a little even more interesting because I think ultimately, like, the guy made the movie because he had access to a house that he could destroy at one point. So, that really got the motor going on that one. But that movie has like a completely different fan base than any of the other movies that we released because it's a foreign film, which is different than the shot on video crowd that's buying things like LA AIDS Jabber or, even though Necrophiles. Yeah. So it's like a kind of a different world anyway. And it's a newer film. than those old movies. It didn't have a VHS release, even though I think a lot of our fans are VHS fans. But just recently, well, first off, it was on Shudder licensed it from us to have on their streaming platform, which brought in a whole different audience to it. And just recently, Joe Bob did an episode on it, which is awesome.
Wow.
So that brought in a whole nother audience to Visual Vengeance and that movie. So all these movies, we're curating something, but it's not so like defined in a way. But these movies all work together, but they do come from different worlds and have different fan bases. It's like, I like to say that they're regional and shot on video films from, because it's not just shot on video. Some are shot on film, and a regional film doesn't have to be in America. You know what I mean? It could be in whatever region you're from,
That's right. It's just not in Hollywood, not in a big, big market.
Yeah. Out of the Hollywood system,
Yeah.
and even, some of these movies are made out in LA, but just way out of the Hollywood system.
Did you have a close up? You said you didn't do much with Lycan Colony, but Scream Queen or Vampires and Other Stereotypes, did you have anything to focus on those?
No, I didn't actually. It's pretty funny. The Vampires and Other Stereotypes is not something I worked on, and neither was Scream Queen.
But again, I can see how they have different audiences, like those.
Oh,
two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know about them, and Vampires and Other Stereotypes is an awesome movie. I love that movie. I did. I've done a lot of work with Kevin Lindenmuth, the director, for other stuff. Like you talked about the massive interview with Brett McCormick that just goes on and on. It's like the career retrospective. So I did that with him, and I did a very similar thing with Kevin that even is longer. It's like, maybe twice as long as Brett's feature length interview. So because I'm such a fan of these guys and their work, I kind of been doing these deep dive career retrospective interviews to be put on these discs. But Vampires was so stacked already, that we saved it for something else. We ended up using that. We're going to use that for another movie.
Because I think you have like 3 commentary tracks on Vampires.
There's a bunch of
and then interviews with the actors and directors.
I mean, there's tons of stuff. See, the thing is that's awesome about Kevin is that he's a filmmaker that still like got it and still knows how to do it, and he's been doing all of it himself. Because other than that massive interview that I put together for him, most of the special features on Kevin's movies he's put together because he's been in contact with these people. I've done some interviews with some of the actresses and actors that are here in New York. And then Kevin will edit them, I'll send them over to Kevin and he'll edit them.
Yeah.
But again, like, I can't remember, but I don't think I did anything that ended up on Vampires. And that's the other thing. Like, we've been working on, there's like, I mean, I don't know, over 100 movies we have in the catalog, and we're working on them all constantly at all different times. And sometimes we're just like, okay, I think this one is good. Like, if you just look at it and we're like, hey, it's got everything. And Rob's just like, I don't think anything else could go in this. And he's the one who pushes them through then, Yep.
You just but you decide, like, we're going to put our energy behind this title, and you just kind of dive in.
Sometimes it's not like that, though. That's the thing, because there's so many people working. There's a bunch of people, like Kevin's working on Kevin movies, but then, we'll send him other stuff to edit for other movies. And then, like, I don't think we've released a single Mark Polonium movie Blu-ray yet, but we have a ton of those that are going to come out. And Mark does a lot of editing. Like, Mark edited. That's the other thing that's really awesome about this company, is that all these guys who were kind of going around the same time, a lot of them didn't connect or know each other back when these movies were first coming out, but the company has brought them together. So, like, Brett McCormick, who made Abomination, and Mark Poloni, who made Splatter Farm, both of their movies were released by that company, Donna Michelle, back in the 80s. Both of them had very horrible experiences and felt that they got ripped off by that company. And yet they never met each other, and they don't know each other. But when we went to Texas to shoot all the special features with Brett for Abomination and Ozone, we brought Mark Polonia to shoot them for us. So they met for the first time ever, which is awesome. These two titans of independent film back in the day. Titans is an interesting word because, you know,
Hey.
to me, these two like really important people in the world of independent, low budget genre cinema meet for the first time. And then they made a movie together. Like Brett wrote a movie that Cocaine Shark, was you know, the classic, the modern classic.
Yes, yes.
Written by Brett McCormick, directed by Mark Polonia, post their meeting that the company had brought them together. And that's part of the fun, is like not just celebrating these guys, but kind of getting them all together, linking them up too, and seeing what happens.
Well, as I was finishing up Screen Queen this morning, there's an interview with Mark Polonia, because that was one of the first editing gigs that he had. And I'm like, here we go. It all comes full circle.
It's so wild. And then Kevin used Mark back in the day for some special effects. So they knew each other. But, you know, it's interesting. Some of them did know each other. Some of them didn't know each other. Scream Queen's a really interesting movie. It got released by Wave, which is I don't know if you know that company, Wave. They're like a New Jersey-based custom video company.
Okay. I don't even know if I know what that means.
Okay, well, you know, people would contact them and be like, hey, I want a movie where, I don't know, a woman dressed like a clown steps
It's
on.
like movies on request.
Yeah.
Like
It's
special
like
order.
kind of fetishy to a certain degree, but you know, they have horror elements, and it's a New Jersey production company still going to this day. There was an awesome documentary made not that long ago by Ross Snyder and Bill Hellfire.
What is that documentary called?
Called Mail Order Murder, and it was
Oh yeah, I heard about that. I haven't watched it yet, but I have it, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, it's Saturn's Core releasing, which also releases. They pretty much only do shot on video. They're a newer company that just releases shot on video stuff. But awesome people, great releases, and Scream Queen was released on Wave at one point, even though it doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's not the same vibe.
It's not the same vibe as a lot of that stuff. But again, hey, if you need distribution and nobody's gonna do it, you go for what you get, I guess. I
also could see somebody going, I want a video that has Linnea Quigley in it, and she kills a bunch of people, and you know, but I don't want so much of that nudity stuff. And I'm like, okay, here's your menu, you know, your little sushi buffet.
It didn't, so that the history of that one is not like most Wave movies, although you could see how it could be. How it fits the thing, but it's more like I want to see Ruby LaRocca in sandals stepping on somebody. That's more the Wave style.
Sure. Whose idea was it to do the stickers?
There might have been a Rob idea, but I think that just goes back to like our VHS obsessions.
And the kids don't know. The kids don't know what these stickers are for. But you know, like back in the day, like that was a thing. Like you were putting them on your video boxes.
I think that at some point we definitely had the conversation of that we like the aesthetic of the stickers, but I hate new releases that have a sticker printed on the cover.
Yeah, the faux sticker.
It doesn't make sense. And I hate
what's that doing there?
I hate a fake sticker. I hate like fake aging on things. It really annoys me. It's like things didn't always look shitty. They looked good at one point, and then they just got old and deteriorated. Like, so really this, you don't want to buy something that looks nasty. It's going to get that way eventually. So why would you pay for it that way in the first place? That's just me. And listen, I do graphic design, but that's just my opinion about it. The sticker thing, that really did irk me, though. I was like, and then it became like a trend where it just happened and everybody was doing it on and on and on, stickers everywhere, on everything. So I think we did have that conversation about, let's just do real stickers.
If you want stickers, here they are.
Yeah, there you go. There's stickers in there. You don't need, you can put them on yourself if you want, you know.
That's right.
And I've seen people do it. They post their releases with stickers on them, which is awesome.
What I know, you said you have some things in the works that should be coming out soon. Are you able to share that?
Endless things are in the works. I mean, I could go on and drop secrets, but I probably won't. Or maybe I will. Who knows? But I know that either.
What can we look forward to in the immediate future?
I don't know when this is going to be released, but
tonight.
It is really
tonight.
Yeah. Oh, you got a day of work ahead of you.
So, or I just won't do any work at all. I'll just hit upload.
That sounds good. These are the 2 new releases. They've been announced. They should be in stores soon, if not already. We've got Despiser and Kung Fu Rascals. Can you? I know they're still in shrink, They're still in shrink wrap, so they're getting a little glare on my computer, but that's okay. What are you gonna do? Kung Fu Rascals is, probably it's Steve Wang directed, and probably he's the most famous person we've ever worked with, even though you may not even know who he is. But if you look him up and see everything that he has worked on, you will be really impressed. I saw that the Guyver is in your stack.
Yep.
And he did work on the Guyver. So and that's probably a lower tier title for him because he does work in Hollywood in real movies. But this was like a film threat release. It also came out on York Video back in the day, and it's just like, it's shot on film, but it's just like, you could tell it's like this guy's effects reel kind of home movie-ish thing with so much heart behind it, because it's got kaijus and stop animation and tons of monsters in it, and a lot of fun kung fu. It's packed to the gills with humor and just spectacular effects. I really do like this one a lot, but it does have that really homemade charm to it too. And then Philip Cook's Despiser, which is just this completely insane sci-fi epic kind of.
You can put it down. We've seen it.
It definitely fills the world of. It definitely fits more in the world of things like Lycan Colony and Suburban Sasquatch, which we released, that are known for their really raw early CGI, which, CGI was such a point of contestment for so long amongst fans. Oh, I like it, practical effects over CGI. But you know what? Hey, man, what's awesome? Jurassic Park. And that has tons of CGI in it. Yep. And I love Jurassic Park. And it looks amazing. And it doesn't look crappy. And it doesn't annoy me. But then there was movies after that were coming out that were just heavily relied on CGI that I think really burnt people out on it. And they were like, it's garbage CGI. I can't even think of a title like maybe to make fun of that had Blair Witch 2 maybe, or like
Anaconda, things like that.
Things like that just had kind of bad CGI. But you know what's even worse CGI? The stuff that people were doing at home, like Despiser, and it is bad, but you know what? It's so much more charming.
That elevates it. Exactly. That elevates it back up.
It's like, oh wait, this guy was doing CGI in his house, and he didn't have all the money behind them that Anaconda did that we're making fun of. So when we see it this way, you're like, man, this guy is. It took just as much effort and love to do that as a guy like Todd Cook, like Todd Sheets. filling his films with like splatter and gore and interesting special effects.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like for me, I love watching practical special effects because in my head, I go, how'd they do that? How did they, like, is it somebody's, arm sticking in from the side with a puppet on it? See, if you give me like some really low grade CGI, like you said, there's a charm to it. That guy is like going, okay, how can I make an explosion on my little, Mac here? And this is in the days before you could just, buy a plug-in and make it happen.
Another king of, I mean, these guys like another king of that kind of stuff is Jeff Leroy, who we just showed one of his movies. As I said, we do a lot of theatrical screenings, and we have a monthly series here in New York, and we license the film out to other people to show all over. But our monthly series, if you keep an eye on our monthly series here at the Nighthawk Cinema in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, you will find out what we will eventually be releasing, because we show a lot of movies that have not come out yet. And one of them is a movie we showed recently called Rat Scratch Fever. It's an early 2000s movie with tons of insane homemade CGI and just so much passion and miniatures and like just these wild sets that are unbelievable for the amount of money that they spent, I gotta say. And those movies, the homemade CGI movies, are really growing on me, I gotta say. It was not a thing that I once
no, same,
even thought of, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like those are the kinds of movies that you almost didn't see. You know what I mean? You just didn't want to watch to begin with. It's not like finding an 80s VHS tape that you're like, oh, this looks so cheaply made, I want to watch it. By the time the early 2000s came around with the DVDs that were dumped in DVDs, it's almost like I missed a lot of stuff like that because I just didn't.
It wasn't of interest.
Yeah, it wasn't as interesting. But now you're looking back on it and you're like, holy crap, hey, that's 1,000 times better than a lot of the mainstream stuff that was coming out at the time.
Absolutely. Like I say, when you see that passion on display, somebody who's got these are the resources he has or she has, and we're going to make our movie.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of, what attracts us to this stuff. I mean,
that is the VV aesthetic.
I guess. Sure. I'll take it.
Wow. I love this conversation. And thank you. It was such a delight because I've had these movies sitting there, and then I just found out of the blue that you worked for Visual Vengeance. So I'm like, oh man, can we please talk about them? Because I don't know who else I was going to talk about them with. And it's like, you were the perfect guy. So thank you for being there in my time of need.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on and talking about these movies, even the ones I had nothing to do with.
I had nothing to do with them either, except for experience them like a fan.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe I should watch them someday.
Yeah, maybe, or not. Got these cool stickers though. Cool. Well, thank you again, Matt. Again, this is Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Matt is wrestling with his cat. If you look at the link right above his head, you'll see the video that will take you to the information about Scare-A-Thon 2024. And please make a donation via the link below in the description of this video. Please support Visual Vengeance. Please support Forbidden Planet. And thank you so much, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of October. Matt?
If I've got to say one thing, don't forget to spade and neuter your cat.
I hope that was what you were planning to say all along. Final words, Matt.
Hey, you know what? My final words are thank you for having me on and talking about this stuff. Thank you for having an interest in Visual Vengeance. Please support the company because I don't want a real job.
Have a fantastic October, everybody. We will see you soon.